Welcome back, everyone, to Spiritual Context for Worldly Chaos. This is part 4 of Megan Leatherman's 2023 interview. Enjoy. Oh, yeah, I love that. I mean, I think the cards, they can be translated in so many different ways that it's spiritual in nature, right? I mean, I use the Mother Peace deck when I go into the spiritual place because it's also anthropological, and it kind of breaks the more modern mind of, A, B, C, right? Like, it's like, well, it could kind of be anything. So when we're talking about, like, say, the suits in this spiritual way, would you say that wands are about what, inspiration, or about how would you translate the wands with a higher purpose?
Mm-hmm. I usually talk about them with regard to like that inner spark or vitality, the fire that enables you to create. It's your creative energy and life force. And that's so often either like dampened through boring or uninspiring work, or being too busy. You can't access the flame, or it's so big that it's consuming you and feeling like you have to create 100 things, by tomorrow. And so the wands can show us sort of how to how to balance.
That's me. It's an Aries moon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And a Leo rising. So it's like all exactly.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense, because that's also your decisions. That's where you get to decide, what is going to happen next. Whereas maybe the cups are more receptive, because we have to wait for relationships, or we have to be compassionate towards relationships, or we have to listen when the cups come up. Or art is something that's more imagined, or kind of channeled in a way, rather than just inspired, right? Inspired can be, well, I'm inspired to take this action, whereas cups, or even also pentacles, is like I'm receiving something, and then I might put it out into the world. So with swords, then, swords would just, that would be, the conflicts that they've come in with. Would that be like the challenges if you see a lot of swords?
Yeah, the way I learned about the swords is from one of my main teachers, Lindsay Mack, who I learned a lot about tarot from. She talks about the swords as really being like our mental, the way that we either work with or don't work with the mind. And so in my work with people, it often comes up in terms of like, how are we thinking about the situation? Or, like I just did a reading with the 8 of Swords. Like, how can we remember that we don't have to like look for the open door, but like we can find the window? And like the mind wants to say that it's only this or only that, but how can you actually adapt and alchemize and like find a different roundabout way through the situation? So yeah, I usually work with the swords and sort of the psychology of change and work and those things.
That makes sense, because the swords are about that conflict inside of yourself and the harder aspects of life, anxiety, and I love the 8 of Swords, because that's one of the cards that I feel a lot of tarot readers feel that they know. They're like, you're a victim. Stop playing a victim. And it's like, I mean, if you kind of have compassion for it, they feel stuck. And no, they aren't, as stuck as, say, if it was, a major, right? Like a major is kind of a, a seasonal thing that's kind of going over you. And right now you may actually be stuck. But I kind of look at it also as you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. And if you want to get out of this, you're going to have to cut yourself on these swords. So it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt to get out. But it's hurting you more to stay here. So you're staying here hoping somebody's going to get you out, because it's going to really hurt if you're the one who has to get you out. And I think that's really important too, because it's those are all the conflicts that we have. Is we feel backed in a corner with all these swords, and we want to kind of look at our ego in this way of like, well, this is how I survive, and it's a way you're surviving, but it doesn't mean that every step you're going to take feels good. It's just at this point, until that, I mean, I do reversals. So until I see it reversed, you're just in that mindset until you can find your way out. And you're like, okay, let me cut my hands on this thing and I'll get out. But I needed, either the push, or I needed the, I'm finally throwing my hands up, or I'm finally feeling like I can handle that kind of pain. Because it's also, there's no applause at the end of that. No one's going, oh, you got out. Yeah, it's like, no, I just like I am leaving behind something or a life that I was really entrenched in for a long time, and what did I get out of it,
Mm.
So that's got to also feel like a higher purpose issue, is how much time I've spent in things that may not have been my higher purpose. What do I do? Just drop them? Do I just like forget about them? Are they just not important to me anymore? Or especially when it comes to money, or when it comes to status, or when it comes to education. I mean, how much money I spent on what I was doing in my career. I was an actor for most of my life. And then finally, I went to my higher purpose of magic. Yay. And like, I love it. I do. But it took a long time to accept that. And the card that came out, because when I finally started relinquishing and, being like, okay, it's not going to leave me. I thought it was going to leave me. I thought by 30, I thought it would be out of my mind. I wouldn't be worrying or thinking about it anymore. And the card that kept coming up was judgment. Over and over. I went to tarot workshops and people would pull judgment for me. And I'm like, come on. Like, stop it, and it's that higher purpose. It's like, whether you want to make this your career or not, it's never going away. It's going to come right back up. So that's really fair. So when you think about the pentacles, then so that probably doesn't have anything to do with money in terms of higher purpose. It probably has more to do with your effort that you put into something, or what you see as valuable to you or important to you.
The way that it usually comes up in my readings is around the body and the resources, the physical sort of resources that we have access to. So issues of rest or overdoing, or how to sort of nourish ourselves. But money also does come up. I think of the pentacles as like, what is the spiritual nature behind our more mundane realities? So like, my need to earn a living has a spiritual tone, another side to it, of course. Is it safe to have needs? Like, is it okay to have these? How do I meet them? Can I trust that they will be met? And so with the pentacles, we're usually working with, either the body or like how to meet material needs in a way that is aligned spiritually.
Yeah, that makes, that's so hard to balance with capitalism. I mean, I talk about a catch-all term that I hate using over and over again. It's like, yes, but it's true. Capitalism is just, entrenched in everything. It affects everything. It affects our relationship to money in general, and how, like you said, how we make our money, and how we feel towards that money, how we feel towards spending money on ourselves to feel good. So many people are so afraid of, going broke that they hoard all of it, or, or maybe they let it all slip through their fingers and they can't find stability. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, the number one hard cards for especially new readers and old readers, because it's hard, the court cards. So when court cards come up, do you look at them as other people that these people can be working with, or is this personalities that they can take on, or are they personalities that they're maturing into?
Yeah, I work with them in the way that they're sort of these energies that we can embody, or like these ways of moving in the world. I don't work with them as other people. It's more like, if the Page of Pentacles shows up, like, how can you really embrace your inner, like, very like naive, sweet, innocent seeker, and how would a child relate to this situation, and how could you sort of embody some of that? Or if a knight shows up, like, how can you make movement here in a way that is like this knight would? There's sort of these like opportunities for alignment, is how I think, like, things to step into is how I work with them usually.
I love that, because I think that's why it's so hard for people to translate them, is because they will box them into one thing. And if you're, talking about a specific reading, because a person has a specific question, higher purpose is, you're trying to embody something. You're trying to figure out how to step closer to what it is that you feel, what makes you feel alive, right? What makes you feel like you're, not meant to be here maybe, but that you belong here, and that you have something that you contribute again, whether it be for money or not. So why not do it through a court card? Because pages, you can look at them as children or younger people. Definitely seen them come up that way. But if it's for a higher purpose, maybe that page, like you said, like maybe that page is the new beginning of an inspiration, or going back down to like a more childlike experience, instead of being so, king, I control everything, and queen, I'm your nurturer, like those are people who take on a lot. Those are people who are the leaders. And maybe that's not your higher purpose. Maybe your higher purpose is to be a part of it, or maybe one of your higher purposes is to be a comic relief if you're a page of wands. I know so many people who you'd never expect want to be in comedy. and not even, necessarily thinking they're going to get to anywhere significant, but they just love to make people laugh. And that's a page of wands. I'm not here to, manage the system. I'm not here to, make sure that everything runs right. I'm here to make you laugh, or I'm here to make this a lighter situation, or I'm here to, bring inspiration in that's just, for a flash in the moment, and I don't have to stay forever. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think we need all of these. We need all of it. So like we need everyone to have access to and be embodying their uniqueness and the way that they need to show up in the world. Nature is so diverse and rich and abundant. Like whatever the pathway, even if you don't feel like it's, other people might not think it's meaningful, or if you don't know how it's helping, or if you're not like a conservationist, like it doesn't matter. Like we all need each of these energy. We all need people to be activated and fully living. And I really believe in the goodness and inherent just beauty of humans. And yes, there's lots of negative stuff out there, but I really believe that when people feel cared for and in touch with that and can sort of live into the choices and ways that they are that feel right to them, it just is like a beautiful kind of meadow coming to life. So yeah, it's all welcome. The Page of Wands, everyone is welcome and needed.
Yes, I love that, because it's true. When you look at the world the way that we see it in modern times, everybody's supposed to be a boss. Everybody's with girl boss, or like CEO, and like that's a big job, and that is a lot of work, and it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of it's a certain type of personality, and that's not everybody. And I think that, especially because the tarot has so many different options, so many different, energies that you're allowed to be. Because that's the thing, when you pull a court card, even if I'm mainly, let's say Queen of Swords or something, maybe that's my main MO. It doesn't mean that I'm not all of these other things too. It depends on who I'm talking to, or depends on, the situation I'm in. I'm totally a Page of Wands when I'm just with my friends. All I do is cut up, But when I'm, in my usual self, I am usually in some kind of like learning mode, or I'm trying to translate something, or I'm trying to perfect something. And it is kind of nice to know which one feels more of my higher purpose and which one feels more like my just fun self. Like I can separate myself then. I can be multiple people and not feel like I'm missing something, or that I'm not taking my life seriously enough, or I'm not, doing the things I need to do. It's like, no, when I'm Page of Pentacles, I've probably found something really freaking cool that I'm like, I want to either collect this or grow this, or plant this, and it doesn't have to be, well, now I've got to become the King of Pentacles. It's like that's what we tend to do. We tend to find one thing and we're like, well, now I've got to become the whole thing. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't even know if that way is the way that feels the best to you. It might just be a moment. It might just be a moment in time that you're supposed to enjoy and let go. And that is so hard for us, because everything is kind of our means to success. Everything is our means to recognition. Everything is our means to especially Americans, some kind of fame, even if it's like YouTube fame, podcast fame, TV fame, film fame. And everything else is like, oh, well, you're just in some, you're in, or it's money, either that or I have to have acquired a very good deal of money. And both of those, I mean, well, I don't know how great fame is, but having money is definitely not bad. But it's, like you said, one-noted, very linear, and it doesn't leave any room for you to be human. You have to just always be a personality or an archetype at all times.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I think it's hard to really every day value how you need to show up in your life and what really gives you meaning, and try and separate that from a very natural desire to be praised for it and get attention for it. And the best scenario in my mind is when you've stayed so devoted to what is right for you and the work that you're here to do or the way that you need to show up. And then any outgrowth of that, any recognition from others is just a natural sort of extra on top of that. And that's a lot easier said than done. But if we can stay really close to the work that feels meaningful and resonant to us in the ways that feels right with what we've got around us and with, yes, all the constraints and parameters, then then it's just a bonus if other people are able to see that. But it's so normal to want our higher purpose to be something that equals a ton of money or a ton of attention. And so often it's not. But that doesn't mean that it's not immensely valuable in what you're put on this planet to do. So it's challenging. I totally understand.
Thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and I hope to see you next time. And as always, as above, so below, blessed be.